Hey everybody, I'm Monty.
And I'm 16.
Welcome to Saving Castles. Bit of an intro here about us. We traveled recently from the US and we packed all our things, sold what we didn't need, kept all the essentials, and we set out to look for a castle in France.
It's been quite an adventure so far, let me tell you. Being in a new country, learning the language, there's a bit of a culture shock, I'll have to admit.
An ongoing culture shock, yes.
And we've been sharing our stories on YouTube and our socials, and naturally, we've gotten some questions from our community.
We've gotten some questions.
And we're here to answer them now.
And we're going to be doing this on a regular basis too, so we thought we would kick it off with 3 of the most common questions that we've been getting.
Cool, so question number 1. What are we actually looking for in a castle, and has it changed since we started?
Oh, for sure. Doesn't everybody automatically romanticize about a castle? I mean, I certainly grew up thinking about castles and knights and moats and towers. And, you know, I think the reality is that once you actually get here and you start to look at actual properties and all the amazing variety, because every property was custom designed for a specific person or a specific purpose. And it's become more function and a lot less fantasy. So we're looking for things now that we didn't imagine that would be so important, but they clearly are. That, you know, so a building or buildings on a property that have strong bones, especially a roof, because a roof is, if you created a list of the most expensive items that you're going to have to replace on an historic building, the roof is most likely number 1 as far as the most expensive. We want it to be near a town or a village that has amenities, medical, certainly some restaurants, transportation are really important, and not a lot of modern renovations, because we want to put our own touch on a property, and if somebody has completely finished it, they've certainly created it in a way that it was designed for them, not for us. So we're prepared to do some work.
And I like seeing the structural integrity of a castle, especially the older it is, with the original stonework, the original floors as much as possible. And we find that luckily it's not very rare to find those castles.
Yeah, we want a little bit of a blank slate, not a complete blank slate, as in a complete ruin.
There's still a little bit of romance in there somewhere. We want the towers still and the stonework, but we're certainly now balancing our fantasies and the function of the property. Now, also, after seeing a couple of these castles, we now are aware of certain practical questions that we should be asking about properties, like plumbing. How does the septic tank work? What kind of renovations or restorations have happened in the property? Are there neighbors? Are we sharing a common wall? Which I find now apparently is common in the area. I didn't even know that.
That kind of went to the top of our list because generationally, as these big properties, historic properties, have been sold off by generation after generation in order to support it, and all of a sudden you've got a neighbor that is literally sharing one wall of the same building. It's pretty common.
Yeah, it's like you're buying a property, but you might be sharing it with 1 or even 2 owners, and we didn't know that coming in. So now we know how to ask those questions, and also we realize that we're not just buying a property, we're also being stewards of history. So there are additional questions that we ask, like what's the backstory? Is it a listed historic monument? And can we host events here? What can we do with these properties? And what are our limitations? And so these questions, and depending on the answers to those questions, it really affects the way we see a castle.
Exactly, and the whole idea of a building or buildings and property being historically listed through a governmental organization, as such as in here in France, that's a whole different video. So we'll save that for another video.
Question number 2. Have we come close to finding the one?
You know, it's very easy to look at the very first property and say, oh my God, that's the most exciting thing I've ever seen, because we hadn't seen a lot. But so the answer to that is yes and no. We've been in the Loire Valley and we've based ourselves here for the remainder of this year. So we had committed ourselves to take our time and learn along the way, because once we make a commitment, it is going to be a lifelong commitment, certainly, and that's one of the most common things we hear from owners of chateaus and castles is it's a lifetime commitment. But we're still very early in the process. We've got some episodes we've already put up with some of the properties we've looked at. We'd love to hear your input, and we know we have experts in the audience. Share what you know, please. We'd love to hear a lot more about what we're looking at.
And you're completely right. There are a few properties that have tugged at our hearts, but we're not castle chasers. We're being intentional in our search. And so in that part of researching and learning what we want and don't want properties, we've documented every visit and every tour. So if you're new to our channel, we highly recommend that you go through those videos and let us know what you think of the properties. And like Monty has said, a lot of you are experts and actually have been in France and have been in the castle search journey for a longer period than we have. So if there are questions that we should be asking, if there is anything that we're missing or certain aspects of these castles that we should be looking at that are not quite yet, please let us know.
I think it's always a scary proposition to hear about people on YouTube, especially who have been so excited and emotional about purchasing a property somewhere in Europe, a castle or fortified manor, that they purchased it without even seeing it. They watched a video, they saw a little bit of it and said, I want to make an offer. Please don't do that.
We were watching a show yesterday and the guy was like, you want a castle? Let's find a castle online. So you want this one? Sure, let me buy it. Like, right. Yeah, right. That's gonna happen.
Unless money is no object, that's the caveat here. If money is no object, and if you make a mistake by not being on site, there's a whole different aspect to making sure that you hire. In the United States, certainly, it's common to hire home inspectors, someone that's independent. That we have some people here that we've built relationships. We'd be glad to pass those names along to you. People that are experts with roofing and plumbing and electrical and the way that all works, at least for here in France. So take your time, be intentional.
Question number 3. What are some things people never realize about owning or restoring a historical chateau?
Oh, wow. It's not, although we've experienced a lot of candlelit dinners and fancy gardens, the reality is you're inheriting generations or hundreds of years of problems. And of course, as things have become modernized over time, some parts of these properties have been modernized, meaning when I say modernized, I want to be clear here. Modernized means to us having basic plumbing, some basic electrical, basic septic system, basic roofing, windows. For example, the difference between a single pane window and a double pane window and what that means to the insulation value. All these things are so important. Plumbing. My gosh, plumbing we don't realize we take everything for granted, electrical and plumbing and all these things. But the reality is, because you're looking at such old historic properties here, realize that it wasn't until the late 1800s till there was a common plumbing upgrades that occurred early to mid 1800s, depending on how much money you had. But the reality is until the 1800s, early 1900s. So many of these properties went for hundreds of years without plumbing. Walls full of moisture. Roofs that need replacing. It's all important, and it's all something that you have to be, again, we keep using the word intentional.
And the red tape, that definitely affects the way we see a castle. Like if it's a listed historic monument, just repainting a window frame can take months of paperwork. And even if it's not a listed historic monument, finding good workers often takes time, and they often come through referrals. So we really have to build relationships and take our time. So although we are finding a lot of beautiful properties, we want to be intentional, take our time. We just arrived.
Not long ago. Been here a little while, so this is going to be our first full year of experiencing 4 complete seasons where we're at, so that's pretty exciting.
So one good thing about being in the Loire Valley or in France is that we learn from castle owners firsthand. We learn about their challenges, we learn about the lessons they learned the hard way. We learn even about the secrets that they often don't even tell even their closest friends, and some privileged information there. And so we document a lot of these, and some of them are available on our YouTube channel, some of them are available as exclusive videos for our Patreon subscribers. So if you really want the full experience, you might want to check that out. We'll leave a link in the description for you for sure. But if you're new to this channel, watch the videos. We're going to be linking a playlist for you to start with. And so if you're, you know, an enthusiast, a castle enthusiast, or if you're seriously looking for a property yourself, the insights from these castle owners might be helpful.
I can't emphasize enough about if there was one thing that you take away from what we're these questions that we're answering is before you make a purchase, build some relationships, because those relationships will be so fruitful. And even if you don't know anybody in the country that you're going to, you know, by taking tours or connecting with some of the owners, you'd be surprised at how friendly and personable that families that live in these chateaus are, and how willing they are to share information and to help you if you make the effort and you make the gesture. So building those relationships, and as she said, we will be sharing some key names and relationships, at least for the part of the country that we're in, that we will share with you over time as well. People that we've vetted and we feel really comfortable with for these different aspects of restoration and renovation.
So I hope you enjoyed this episode. We're going to be doing a lot more of these Q&As, aren't we?
We are regularly, so please make sure you subscribe.
Ask us some questions.
Yeah, ask us some questions. We're up for lots of questions, and we're going to be in this together, and it's going to be a long journey for us, and we just want to bring you along.
Bye, everyone.
We'll see you. Au revoir.